Today we are going to be doing lesson number 3, which is I can calculate tax and tip. This is something you will definitely see in the real world, so it's good to have an understanding of it. So a few things to just start thinking about. If you've ever gone out to eat and you leave a tip for the waitress, that's where we see this in real life. And then think about, how did you figure out the tip? Every family kind of does it differently. Some people might use a calculator. I was taught to take the tax and multiply the tax. Some people look at the bill itself and find 10% and then go up from there. But there's always these little tricks that parents have that you might know about. But really, when we think about tax and tip, it's just a form of markup. So we're going to take our cost and we're going to increase it. Our first problem today says, last night I got my hair cut. My bill came to a total of $14.95, and I gave the stylist a 17% tip. My question is, how much did I pay in all? So remember, we have our proportion. Part over whole equals percent over 100. The biggest thing we have to remember, though, is this part and this percent are going to correlate. So when I set this up, I had a total, so that's the whole. This is clearly the percent. I'm going to end up finding a part. But when I think about setting up this proportion, it's over 100. Part, I don't know. Whole, $14.95. Percent is 17. This is the percent tip that I left. So my X is going to be the dollar tip. It's not going to be how much I ended up paying. We'll have to calculate that later using our markup strategies. However, knowing we have to find the part, I want you to pause the video, do your cross multiplication, and figure out what is X. And you know how to do this on your own, so please pause and find the answer. So I went ahead and found X, and I saw that X equals 2.5415. Now, remember we discussed how this is simply the amount of tip I'm leaving. So I can only have 2 decimal places because it's a money amount. So I'm going to give her a $2.54 tip. When I need to figure out how much I paid in total, we have to use what we know about markup. Take the original cost, $14.95, add how much more you're going to end up spending, and you can get your final cost. It's 9,417. So my haircut, in total, I paid $17.49. This is my final answer of the original cost plus the tip that I left. Problem number 2 says that Chrissy is a waitress at Applebee's, and she told me that her best tip all night was $15 on a bill that was a total of $56.41. My question is, what percent tip did they leave? So when I set up my proportion, I have to think about, what are my numbers representing? No, the 100 goes there. The tip is the part, and the total bill is the whole, and I'm finding my percent. So I had a $15 tip. My total bill was $56.41, and I need to find the percent. Because this part is the tip, I know that my percent is going to be the percent tip they left. So that's going to match up with what I need to find. Once again, though, this is something we know how to do. So I would like you to cross multiply on your own. So pause the video and find, what does X equal? Then come back and check your work. So I went ahead and solved for X, and I ended up with X equals 26.5910 ... But I want to think about, what's the question asking? It said, what percent tip did they leave? I already know X is my percent tip, and generally with percents, we like 1 or 2 decimals. So I'm going to do 1 decimal, but this 9 is going to bump my 5 up. So they left a 26.6% tip. Notice we have to be matching. So in everyday society, anytime you go to the store, certain things are taxed. Almost everything is taxed except for essential food items. So that's like your bread, dairy, meat, cheese. That's all tax-free, except if you buy like candy and chips and ice cream, that's not essential. They're going to charge you tax on that kind of food. So when we think about the tax in Waukesha County, where we live, our current tax rate is 5.1%. The state of Wisconsin has a tax of 5%, and then Waukesha County adds a 0.1% tax. So these taxes are used to keep the community nice and to support the community. Support the community. So things that support the community would be your police officers, schools, firefighters, things like that. Those are things that are keeping your parks nice. All of that uses tax money to keep it in good conditions. And then your untaxed items are your essential food. Anything that you have to live is untaxed. So looking at the next question, this is going to be a little bit of a real world application. I was at Target the other day and I bought a pair of shoes for $29.99, laundry detergent for $8.98, and trail mix for $3.44. None of those are essential, so those are all taxed. What I need to do is figure out, including tax, what was my bill? Shop in Waukesha County because I live in Waukesha County. So the first thing is I need to know what was the subtotal of my bill. Subtotal. To figure out that subtotal, I'm going to add up how much each item cost. So I have $29.99, $8.98, and $3.44. And I need to add all of those together to figure out how much my bill came to. And I figured out that my bill was $42.41. But that's all before tax. So now I've already included these numbers. I'm really looking at the number $42.41, and I know the tax rate for Waukesha County is 5.1%. So I first need to start by figuring out what tax did I pay on this bill. So when I set up my proportion, it's over 100. This is the whole. I need to figure out the part. My whole was $42.41, and my percent was 5.1% tax. So my part is going to be the dollars of tax that I'm going to have to pay, not the answer notice. So please use what we know. Go ahead and use your cross multiplication skills to figure out what is X. How much tax is going to be added onto my bill? So if we both did this correctly, we both should have ended up with X equals 2.16291. But remember, this is the money that's going to be the tax added onto my bill. So I only get two decimal places, 216. The 2 is going to make it stay like that. So this is how much tax I have to pay. To figure out my total bill, I have to take how much was my subtotal plus my tax, and that's going to give me my final answer. I would get, when I add this together, 7,544. So I paid $44.57 total at Target after tax was added on my bill. And lastly, Matt went out to dinner the other night, and his bill is listed down below. However, the restaurant forgot to add the tax on his bill. So if this restaurant was in Waukesha, what would his tax be? We first need to figure out that piece. Then, after tax, what would his total bill be if he added that 18% tip? So when we read a bill, we're always looking for that subtotal. That subtotal is going to be the whole or the original price of things. So first I need to find the tax. So we're going to set up a proportion. We know tax in Waukesha is 5.1% tax. His total or his whole was $155.80. And I need to figure out how much dollars of tax he has to pay. So pause the video, do your cross multiplication, and figure out how many dollars he's going to pay in tax. So when I solved the proportion, I got 7.9458. It's a money amount, so I only get 2 decimals, but this 5 is going to bump up the 4. So he has to pay $7.95 in tax. Now the second part of this question is after tax, what would his total bill be? So to figure out my after tax, first I need to add the tax to my price. So $7.95, and I need to figure out how much money is my bill now at. We have 5, 17, 5 and 7 is 13, and 1, 6, 1. So now what this says is currently, here is my new bill. I'm now at $163.75, and I'm going to add an 18% tip to that. How much will it cost me now to eat out? So now I have to calculate the tip. So set up your proportion. My total is now $163.75, and I want an 18% tip. And remember, if this is your percent tip, this is going to be the dollars of tip you will leave, not the answer. So once again, pause the video, cross multiply, and figure out what is x equal to. If you did this correctly, you should have gotten that x equals 29.475. If you didn't get this, come ask for some help. But once again, this is money. We only get 2 decimals, but this 5 is going to bump up that next number. So it's going to be 29.48. This is how much of a tip he's going to leave since his bill was so big. But I need to know how much total is he going to end up paying. This is his tip. This is where his bill was at. I'm going to have to add that together. His bill was already at $163.75 after tax. Plus he wants to leave a generous tip. And all together, we'll find his total bill. And we get a grand total of $193.23. And so $193.23 is going to be his final price of his dinner after the tax and after the tip has been figured out.